Welcome to Coach's Corner. Today, I have Ian Bick from the Locked In podcast. Welcome, Ian. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Coach. Look at this. Your third episode in. You're in business now.
We're in business now. Look at this, right?
You already got a brand new set, too.
Got a brand, yeah. Look at, obviously appreciate all the help that you are providing here to get me going on this new venture. A little bit out of my comfort zone here.
It's okay. I was out of my comfort zone when I started boxing, so.
So let's kind of get into it. Let's talk about a little bit about you. Obviously you coming into Champs, started training, and, AJ had told me you were there training, and we kind of hooked up. And why don't you tell a little bit about your story prior to coming into Champs and what brought you in to start training and into the boxing scene?
Well, I grew up in Danbury, and I always knew of AJ. I used to read about AJ in like the News Times, which is funny because later on I would be featured in the News Times. So I always say like me and AJ lived the same life, just 10 years apart, and which is why we're probably so close now because we relate on that level. And so I owned Tuxedo Junction in Danbury, Connecticut. Ended up going to prison. And then I got out in 2019.
Yeah. You were a guest of the government for a little while, huh?
Yeah. So I got out and I started working at Whole Foods. And one of my friends was a trainer at Champs. And he got me into boxing, and I was paying him to train me. And I liked it. And it was fun because I was coming out of prison. I went into prison weighing almost 300 pounds. Very chunky face. You look at those News Time photos of me.
I didn't realize that you were that heavy when you went.
Yeah, I had a big gut. It was all that McDonald's and stress eating. I would work at the club, and then at midnight or 1 or 2, straight to Taco Bell, McDonald's, or the diner. And, when you have all that stress on you and stuff. So I was just eating like crap.
Eating like crap late at night, going to bed, doing it all again.
Exactly. I felt like crap. And then I finally lost the weight in prison, actually being in solitary for a few months. You only get, that's the best diet. Those 3 meals a day. And so that's where I lost the weight. And then I started running. I would literally run like 3 miles a day. I was a great runner in prison. And then I started lifting. You'd lift with like the cinder blocks, and we'd set up like a real weight pit with cinder blocks and bars. And, you'd hit legs by standing underneath the picnic table, having someone sit on the picnic table and doing leg lifts. So I did all of that, and then I got out. I started going to the gym again. Locally, just went to the gym, had a lifting resume, and then I started doing the boxing. And then right around that time, they were filming the HBO documentary, and they wanted to film a scene at Champs. So during COVID, we filmed a scene at Champs. They rented it out, worked out a deal with AJ, and then we filmed a scene that made it into the doc. And then a few months later, I didn't know because I wasn't friends with AJ at the time, but then I found out that he had a Netflix documentary came out. So that came out, and then he messaged me, I messaged him, and then we started getting close. And then it was this year, that trainer had left the gym, and I was looking to get back into boxing. And you actually DM'd me. You introduced yourself to me, and then I came in, and that's when we linked up. And you were very unsure about me.
Well, listen, as trainers and as coaches, when people come to us, it's, like the honeymoon period, right? We have to see what that individual is and kind of test the waters, especially when it comes to boxing. Everybody, I want to box. I want to get in the ring. But when the work is done, when you get there for the training, we have to see what you have in you. So you coming in where I And we'll get into that in a couple of minutes. But let's talk about your training in the beginning. Like, what was your expectation of training coming in? Like, you came in semi-shape, not bad. You were running, you were doing your conditioning on your own, a little bit of your workout. And how did you feel coming in after the first couple of times? What was your take on it?
No, I liked it, but going into it, I didn't know if I was ever going to fight because I'm not a fighter. Like, I'm not a natural-born fighter. I just know, like, I looked up to, like, Amesbury and saw what he could do, and I think I went in with the mentality wanting to be able to defend myself, like,
right.
if it ever happened, because I was never that person before. I was a kid that got bullied, and even in prison, you know, I got picked on and stuff. So I just wanted to be in the position where I knew how to, like, get hit. I think that's one of the hardest parts about fighting is getting hit and being able to recover from that. It's like failing in life. You know, I'm really good at failing and then getting myself back up. But physically, I was never good at, like, getting hit and then standing back up again.
Well, you know what? Nobody's really, really good at getting hit. Getting hit's an unnatural
Except for Amesbury.
Yeah, well, yeah. He's a hitter. He's not a getting hit guy. You know, like even, you know, Mike Tyson says that, you know, everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the face. But, you know, I often say if a fighter tells you, yeah, I like getting hit, then, you know, there's a little bit something wrong with that person. It's not natural to get hit. But when you do get hit, it's how you react. But you came in and you started with the training, and then you came up with, I want to fight. I want to have some sort of fight other than sparring, other than a simulated training session. You wanted an end game. Mm-hmm. I wasn't too sure about that in the beginning because, look, as trainers, we need to protect our fighters. We need to protect, even if it's a client, we need to make sure that you're put in an environment where you can be successful and not be overmatched. Like, you know what? Everybody comes in and they're like, you have no fights. You have no boxing experience in the ring other than training. We don't want to throw you to the wolves right away. You know what I mean? But we do want to test you. We want to test you and see, you know, what are you going to be like when you get hit? And, you know, how are you going to react? So we went pretty long there. I was impressed because of, I say we probably put a good 3 or 4 months in before we decided there was an opportunity for you.
Yeah, we went April to like August, I think. We were grinding.
And you were consistent because you were traveling for work. Mm-hmm. You were working out. You started your podcast, okay? Putting the time in here, working late hours, early mornings, late hours, traveling, but you still managed your training. You tweaked a lot of things in your life. How hard was that for you?
I think I've always been like a organized, like when I have my mind set on something, I'm going after and doing whatever. So to me, that was just like another thing on the to-do list. And even now, like I'm always constantly tweaking. Like now I'm like, okay, I can't really work out at night. And what's working for me now is working out in the morning. Like I get up at like 8 and I go to the gym and I run and I lift. I'm getting back into like lifting a little bit, like light. And that's been working for me because now I have so much workload doing on because I'm building this studio business, which I didn't have before. And with that, you know, like when I get in the work grind, I don't want to like get up at like 7 o'clock at night and say, okay, I got to stop what I'm doing and go to the gym. So what's been working for me is if I start my day out at the gym and training, then it works out better because that's done with for the day.
Right.
So that's how I've always, like once I get into a rhythm and a routine, I mean, you know what they say, you have to do something for the first few times and get into a rhythm. That's like the hardest part about starting to work out. So for me, it's just like natural to build something into my schedule. People ask me all the time, how can you balance so many things? Because I don't just have one podcast. I have multiple podcasts, multiple clients, and I take on more stuff. And it's just time management. I mean, look at you. You have a full-time job, and you're training people. You're doing this. You're doing that. So it's all about time management, and you see some people can't do that. They get overwhelmed by one thing, and that's just how they are. There's no issue with that. Everyone's built differently. But I think time management's so important in this field.
Do you think by going away that helped you? Or you liked that prior to that, or did you grow by that experience of being away?
I don't think prison did anything for that because that makes you lazier because you're not on a schedule. You have no responsibility.
But from what you're talking about, you weren't lazy.
No,
You were active.
Yeah, I mean, with the club, when I owned the club, because I had no money, I was cleaning the club. We would do shows. If there was 2 shows back to back, I would literally stay up all night, get a couple hours of sleep on the couch. And when you have all that confetti in this huge place, I'm sitting there with a leaf blower, a vacuum, I'm hosing it down, I'm cleaning the girls' bathroom, I'm doing all this shit by myself. An hour before doors are open, I have no money for change, and change is huge when you're running a bar. Even if it was a soda bar, I'd sneak over the laundromat next door, putting in 20s and 40s into the machine to get dollar bills, and the Spanish woman's chasing me out. And then I would take more money from ticket sales, take a shopping cart I stole from the dollar store on Main Street because my license was suspended. I had no car. I'm hauling that thing down, loading it up with Gatorades, candies, and shit to resell. And they're yelling, bring the cart back, bring the cart back. And I'm hauling it down, sometimes in the snow. There would be a snowstorm the day of the show. I'm outside shoveling. Meanwhile, I got the cops down my back. I got investors showing up looking for money. The whole thing was just a mess, and I'm just trying to make it work.
So
it was nuts.
So everybody's looking at you like this big-time club owner, and here you are at the end of the night doing everything or doing whatever it takes to try to be successful.
Yeah.
And try to make something work.
I think people just always had the wrong opinion of me. I think I made a lot of mistakes and I didn't do things properly. But had I had like the money and the financing to do it, I think it would have been differently. But I was always a hard worker. Like it was never like I'm here all the time. I'm here.
But see that's something that you're hit on a good point. Okay, I didn't know much about you prior to coming in, other than what was on the internet.
Danbury News Times.
Yeah, but you can't judge people like that. You know, you don't know a person till you sit down, till you're close to them, and you start working with them. Or you can't judge by what society says about them. One thing that stands out, you can't hide, is someone's work ethic. So, you know, knowing you after the fact, and now I didn't know this story prior to you telling me, because I figured you probably had a staff of 20 people doing shit.
Yeah, shit.
But you know what? That is part of your work ethic. I could see that. And you know, people, you don't, people have that or they don't. You know, if people want to make stuff happen, they make it happen. You know, there are people that have been handed tons of money that fucked up businesses because they didn't know what to do. They had no work ethic, you know. But, you know, you did it without anything. And I think knowing you now and where you're at, and where you're going, you know, that is what's going to make you more successful, that drive, that determination. You're, you know, detail-oriented there. But I want to get back to the boxing end of it and, you know, kind of get into, as training went on, tell me about this where it clicked in your head, hey, I really want to try to fight for real. Whether it be like, you know, we talked about celebrity boxing, we talked about white collar, rough and rowdy, we've talked about, tell me, did it feel more comfortable as we were training that, yeah, this is something I can see myself doing?
Honestly, I didn't want to fight at all. Even going into that exhibition thing, like I didn't want to do that. I still don't even really want to fight, but I look at it as purely like a business and marketing standpoint, because I look at it as, okay, I have this platform and this world of celebrity boxing is really big. And to me, if I don't do every single thing possible to get to the top with my podcast, then I'm not doing everything right. And that's just another avenue. I mean, the exposure you can get from that. You know, so to me, it's less about the fight and more about just another thing I need to do, it leaving no stone unturned. Like, I don't want to be able to say it.
But it comes down to still you being prepared.
Yeah, exactly.
It comes down to like, okay, for whatever your reason as an influencer, for, you know, definitely for your business. And look, this influencer boxing is becoming so big. I met a kid when I was away at camp with a fighter, and he is not a fighter. He's a big fight influencer, and his payday for his first fight was ridiculous.
Insane.
Just because of his hits and his story. But, you know, at the end of the day, you still had to train, but somebody was going to throw punches at you. It wasn't choreographed. We weren't going in there saying, okay, you know, let's go easy on him. You trained as if you were going to fight. You trained as a fighter preparing for a fight. Tell me a little bit about that as it got closer. And then, we'll talk about the event a little bit. But as it started to really get surreal, and we said, okay, Ian, we have this date. What are your thoughts? And now you're preparing for something.
I mean, the training's rigorous. Like, we were trained, I was doing shit in the morning. I was running in the morning, then training with you at night. And then it sucked because I had, like, the flu or COVID or something, like, the week before. And I, like, felt, like, very winded and whatnot from that. But, I mean, it's tough work, especially working full days in between. Like, I was still going to the studio in New York, so I remember driving back and doing that. Training after.
You were on the road a lot. You were doing airport runs. So like we talk about like, look, he's running his podcast and he's picking up his guests. He's doing what it takes to get stuff done and be successful. And honestly, as a coach, I like to work with people like that. I like to work with people. We use the word grind. But you got skin in the game. You're not sitting there waiting for stuff to be handed to you or stuff to be happen. And I think in today's day and age, there are a lot of people out there. They're just waiting. They're looking. When is you got to make your own breaks, I think, sometimes. And you're definitely an example of that. And you know what? How old are you now?
28.
You're young. You're okay. 28 and a half. You're still a young man in a different world, and you could have easily came out and said, "Fuck it, I'm not going to do." But you came out and hit the ground running. You started up. You had a vision of what you wanted to do for yourself and a business wise, on your personal level. But I commend you for that. But getting back to the boxing, now we're getting closer. So let's kind of break down. Ian fought on an event, Contenders Series in Mahopac, New York, run by Rob Fratelli from Contenders Gym. He's been doing the event for over 10 years. It's a great white-collar event for people to box and to get their feet wet on a beautiful venue in front of a lot of people, probably one of the better shows out there for a guy to go on for his first show. And, I kind of prepped you. You sparred. We had to cut sparring back a little bit just to make sure that, you tweaked a little bit here and there. You had, you were sick a little bit, had a couple little nagging injuries that we just wanted to make sure that you were going to walk into the event healthy and everything. So give me the last couple of days leading up to this. Now you're in this thing real, and we're close. And, I thought you had a great camp considering from where you started from and the amount of time, because we really didn't work a year. You had some sparring. We worked as much as we could. You definitely physically were ready. You were doing your running. You were in shape. We knew that it was more we were working on your mental as far as getting it.
Yeah.
So not to have that mental. Well, see, that's what a lot of people don't realize. That mental anxiety will get you more than you not being, most guys are in shape. It's their mental that they melt down sometimes with. So we can get you into shape mentally and physically. We got a shot to catch some lightning in the bottle there. You know what I mean? But, here we are. We're in a packed house, and you're getting ready to go. Gloved up, wrapped up, just like a regular fighter. Tell us about your experience there.
I was definitely a little nervous. I was always that kid that is like deathly afraid of going on the roller coaster, but I'll still go on it. So like I knew I was getting in that ring. Like I wasn't gonna chicken out, but like I still had like the anxiety and the stress. Like I'm a performer, like I do this for a living with podcasts and growing up in theater and being on stage. But I always get nervous. When I give a talk, my heart's beating. I'm really nervous. Like I have that feeling of I don't want to do this. Like I'm gonna be sick. And I get that every time. That's just a natural thing. But I have like this ability, I guess, to just go for it and perform naturally with that. So like once we got like out into the crowd, everyone cheering and got in the ring, then I was fine. At that point, it was just like staying conditioned. It was less about nervousness and more about like, okay, my arms are starting to hurt. I'm sweating. Like the hits didn't bother me. It was just like my arms started feeling like jello after a while, like just throwing punches and stuff like that. I think that's something I probably wasn't like myself physically ready for, just like the amount of punches I was throwing and stuff. But
That's something that experience brings. That's something that, nobody anticipates or we can't simulate that feeling for you, and it's something like, it's like the first time you get hit. Everybody kind of, we've been hit as kids maybe in little brawls or whatever the case, but when you really get hit in a ring by somebody who's coming at you, it's a different feeling. But, I thought that you performed very, very well for your first time out there, especially in the venue that it was in. It wasn't, there were people yelling and screaming. It's in a ring with a referee and another guy wanting to perform well as you too. But, leading up to it as a coach to see that end result, I think, and everybody says, I could have did this. Yes, we all could have did that and did this and did that. But you have to look at from where you started to where you finished. And, as a coach, I thought that you were prepared. You definitely put your work in. There's no question about how hard you worked to do it. And that, to me, was very impressive to see you up there. And, even though it's like those 3 minutes that you're up there are the longest 3 minutes of your life.
Dude, I was like, what the fuck's wrong here? It was so long, and they kept stopping. The ref was, smacking my back and stuff during it, and it just felt like forever.
Your opponent was holding a little bit too much, too, which is kind of like, that kind of throws you out your rhythm right there. But you know what? So what do you think's next for you?
I mean, I want to do the Rough and Rowdy eventually, whether it's this one or the next one or whenever that comes. I think that fits my platform. It's a great pay-per-view event. And, I have so many listeners that when I was promoting that exhibition, everyone's like, where can we stream it? Where can we watch it? Because my audience is all over the country. It's not like a local audience.
Right.
So I think getting me on something like that could be huge. Or it's something we promote in-house with a total another amateur influencer who's never boxed before. That's kind of my speed, But I know I'm not at the level where I'll ever go pro or fight someone who could seriously fight. But the training part, to me, it's all about the training and the buildup. I love that. I love the process of building. When I was doing the club nights, this is what I compare it to. I never liked the event itself. I loved the hustle and the grind of building it. Hated the event itself. Wasn't a fan of it. Always looking towards the next one. So that's kind of this is a similar thing. And once we have something in mind, then, bam, hit the ground running. And
yeah, that's, you know what, fight night or event night is usually not, I don't want to use the word easy, but all the hard work is put in. It's like getting ready to go to the dance. You put all the hard work in, and now, it's gonna turn out on that night. You could kind of sit back a little bit because, if you prepared properly and you trained properly and everybody did their job, you're ready to go. Yeah. Train hard, fight easy. But I think those venues for you are realistic because there is improvement. It's not like we're, okay, we got the first one under our belts here, okay, and now you having an understanding of how to train, what it feels like to fight in front of people, what it feels like to fight against somebody who, whether they're an influencer or boxer, whatever it is, that's going to come and want to take your head off. But I think that reality is there for you. And I think in, not where everybody's going to be a pro fighter, there are avenues for people through boxing now to go out and, perform and feel a result, an end result, whether it's for, personal reasons, podcasts, whatever the case may be, followers. But, I think to see you again, I think being a little smarter and a little wiser in the second one is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I'm a lot like Ames in the way, I understood what he meant by, he's got to be in, his routine and do his thing on some certain degree. So me adjusting and doing the mornings and the working out, I think that helps me too.
Well, here's the other thing, right? We talk about, people. So as coaches and as trainers, look, we know how to set up the process, set up the plan, put together the regiment. But one thing we don't know is what is that individual? like? Is that individual, is he a morning person? Can he train in the morning? Can he train at night? What makes him click where it goes easier that we can work around that? Because everybody's a little different. Everybody's not the same as far as, some guys want to train in the morning. Some guys want to train at night, depending on diets, what they eat, what helps them perform better. So, yeah, we need to lock in with an individual that we're training, like yourself, and have that input as a team. And if you're working and you have a full-time job or something, we have to take that in consideration too. Mm-hmm. And everybody being different. But now, you're around guys like Ames, who's in our gym. You're around a lot of the other guys and some of the other trainers. You're definitely comfortable there. And, we try to put you up there and, get you a little more experience and a little more relaxed in there. I'm kind of excited to see what the next step is for you.
Definitely.
Whether it is, I think Rough and Rowdy is a perfect venue for you personally. Mm-hmm. It definitely fits your format. It's a good experience as far as the way they run everything. Very, very professional on Barstool. A great event there. I think, you can find a good match there that would fit.
I think it would be fun. Just like all the shit talking, the exposure, every aspect of it. Like, to me, like, people are like, they're like, well, what happens if you lose? Doesn't that affect your brand? I'm like, no, it's fun because you're already winning by going out there, and most people won't do that. Like, to me, I'm like this little, like, white nerdy looking dude. If I could make it 3 rounds, I'm fine, Like, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a great event because, like you said, we got trash talking. It's streamed. You're going up against, someone on your caliber where, there is buildup. We have buildup here. You're trash talking. It's all over the social media. But the night of the event also, it's a sold out event. People yelling and screaming, streamed, everything. So it's definitely something that I would look to. If I was fighting at that, I'd look to be fighting on an event like that. And, we've seen success with Ames. And, hopefully, January 25th in Providence, Rough and Rowdy, you might be on that card. We're not sure yet.
We'll find out.
We'll find out, okay? But, we do have Daniel Diamond Ham's Amesbury on that card.
Eventually, I think even if it's not this one, it'll be a matter of time because it just fits,
It fits. And then, you know what? We need to find a fit for you.
And I know AJ's talking about doing something in Danbury, kind of like what Rob does, so I think that would be great too.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's so many different avenues, especially with influencers today.
Yeah.
People, your audience is not Danbury anymore. Your audience is
I think the next thing I do has to be strategic. Like, it's got to be streamed for it to make sense for me to do it because that's what I'm bringing to the table too. Like, doing a little local thing, I don't know if it's not streamed,
Streaming is definitely a way to go, but I think also from my perspective, maybe you do a local thing also is because you just show where you are today and where you came from.
Yeah.
You're a story that, okay, everybody can go and look at the internet and read all the comments about you and whatever the hell happened, who gives a shit? That was eons ago. You're not that guy. Mm-hmm. But you've evolved from that guy.
Yeah. No, I'm not the same person.
You know what I mean? And you're sitting here, started a podcast with your own sweat, your own equity, your own skin in the game, built it and built it and built it. So, I mean, that's got to say a lot right there. From my perspective, I'd like to see you just say, hey, you guys wrote me off how many years ago, but I'm back.
And that's what I love about this. And, that brings up a great topic. Like, I feel like now with my platform, I want to get involved with my community more, like do a lot. Like, I look up to AJ in that respect and what you guys do. And like, I reached out to a congresswoman in Connecticut and they turned me down. Like, I was like, listen, I have this whole platform. You guys are promoting reentry. I'd like to get involved. And they're like, she won't take a meeting with you. And that's like the stigma in society now. And now I'm like starting to put the pressure on like Danbury to like get involved with reentry, because other cities in Connecticut have that. Bridgeport, they hire ex-felons, this and that. I have this, one of the, I would say the biggest platform in the world for reentry, for people that have went to prison, solely focusing on that. And there's a power in that. So I want to start getting involved and being a part of the discussions, because that's like how change is made. And there's just like, there's hesitancy with that. And because people go and they look up online articles, but it's like, and this is my problem with the news and the media. You search my name on Google, there's nothing recent from the local Danbury paper about what's going on, about what we built, how we're giving back, or the Chevy Chase or anything like that. You know, there's no like, and this applies to not just me. It's bigger than that. It's when someone gets out of prison, there's no republished article to say, hey, this is what the person's doing now. It's only like that, oh, this person screwed up and went to prison. It's never the good part.
No, they'll tell you if someone went to jail and got out, if they got in trouble again, it'll be back in the paper. Oh, well, you know, it's just
like
that expectation of, no, he wasn't rehabilitated. We knew that was going to happen.
If I got arrested today, I guarantee you that would be the first thing.
On front page.
Yeah, front page of the News Times. Right. But nothing else from what we've done the last couple of years.
No, right off the rip.
When the HBO thing came out, they did an article, of course, and then, of course, they put in he's on probation, this and that. Like, they bring up the negative stuff. It doesn't make sense.
I didn't want to talk about that stuff today with you, because I know you as you are today. I don't know you from them.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm not judging you from them, because look, everybody does things and everybody's got something in their life. You know, you could all bullshit each other. People got skeletons in their closet. You know what I mean? And so be it. But it's how you know, going back to coaching and fighting and everything else, it's how you pick yourself up after you've been down. You could have laid down. You could have laid down and not did anything when you came out. But you came out, and tell me about the idea that started your podcast. Where did you come up with this idea, and was it something that happened when you were away, or did it trigger when you got out? Like, look, you obviously came out. What was, when you hit the ground, what did you do right away? You obviously didn't fall right into this day one.
No, I was trying to get back in the nightclub business.
Okay.
I always thought that was the story, you know, and when I realized that wasn't going to be a thing, because I needed money to start that and I needed to rebuild a lot of things, I kind of like folded over and went to work at Whole Foods.
Right.
But I fell in love with that because it gave me a stable paycheck. I got a car. I got my credit fixed. I got a dog. I got an apartment. It was great.
Yeah, there's something to be said when somebody gives you a check every week and you're not writing it.
I loved it.
Robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah, because I owned this club, but I had no money. So now with overtime, there was months I was clearing $6,000-7,000 after taxes.
Yeah.
But I was killing. I was working like 90, 100 hours a week.
You're showing up, so they got to love you off of that.
Yeah,
right?
and I worked my way up to team leader. When I quit, I was on track to make over 100 that year with overtime. I was making $33 an hour as a team leader. I was doing a lot of hours, but I grinded my way up, and I proved it because in that setting they frown upon like people with pasts like mine or whatnot, and I proved them wrong. And for me, it was I worked my way up quicker than anyone.
So is that something? You hit something. Is that something when you do, is that in the back of your head, prove them wrong?
I love I love when people count me out. And, a lot of the fighters say that, like,
I mean, look,
count me out.
I love working with underdogs. I love working with people who've been, cast off, not being relevant anymore. Anybody could work with the Derek Jeters and the Michael Jordans of the world. What are we going to do? Floyd Mayweather, give him water and say, great job?
Yeah.
You're not going to coach him. What can you do with somebody that you really got to mold?
And AJ's a perfect example of that, because remember how everyone counted out the Trashers all those years? They idolized them, hated them, and as soon as Netflix put them in the spotlight again, look at now it's one of the biggest things on the planet.
Yeah, but and he has the sort of vision that we seem to have the same vision. We're rooting for the underdog. We're not front runners. Guys that come in, none for nothing projects. You were a project. You know what? People.
I'm still a project.
You're still a project. Yeah, we're still. But we're all. But
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Somebody could have said, "Hey, just come in. We're gonna, take money from you. Hit the pads. But once you showed that. But anyway, So now you're working at Whole Foods. How did the idea for Locked In come in?
That came actually months later. My friend convinced me, is like, dude, you got to get on TikTok and start sharing your story. And I was like, okay. And I started making TikToks, learned how to do TikTok. And had I done this during COVID, I'd probably be a millionaire by now, because that's when it exploded.
Yeah.
But
you were home all day. You had time to just sit there.
And that's when this concept of prison TikTok or prison YouTube first formed during COVID, like in 2020. Everyone's talking about their prison experience. I got to the ball late, but I was able to stand out because of the way I look. The red cheeks, the rosy the glasses, everything.
Boy next door look.
Yeah, or Harry Potter or Squints from Sandlot. And so, I just started doing TikToks, and my 5th video went viral talking about prison. It did like 2 million views, and I'm like, okay, I have something. I just started doing more and more, answering questions. And January of last year, I went into the year with 100,000 followers. And my mind's always thinking, like, what's next? How do you scale this? I'm a very, I don't go into a plan without seeing an end goal. So going into fighting, I'm like, okay, eventually I'm going to fight. Going into social media, it's like I can't talk about my story every day.
Right.
What can I do to expand that? And that's something I'm trying to teach AJ and Ames. Let's think beyond the trashers for the podcast. How do we grow off of that? You use it as a base. So I used prison as a base to build a platform of my experience. And then as soon as I realized, okay, there's millions of other people like me in the world, how do you incorporate them? That's when the idea for Locked In with Ian Bick came to life. And it was like, I get people, even like yourself, that come in and they're nervous in this environment, or not even nervous, they're uncomfortable.
This is not my comfort zone at all.
They don't know. So that was me. This time last year, my first episodes were horrible. You're doing better episodes than me because I knew nothing about podcasting, and now I'm able to give that knowledge.
That's also like, look, we would not even be sitting here if it's not something that we talked about, and you've made me comfortable with it, with the idea. And I'm, but go ahead. So now you're out there, you're on TikTok.
Yeah, I started doing this podcast. Like, the set wasn't great. It was like a wide camera angle, bad shots, audio wasn't good, lighting wasn't good, but it was a start. And it's like boxing and training. You get coached on it, you learn, and you improve. So each podcast was a boxing fight, learning how to get better, studying other people. And it was like from January, I put out my first episode, to where I got my first big break in like April, where No Jumper posted a video that went like 10 million views. And that brought a lot of attention to the podcast. And then along the way, I'm discovering my purpose, and I go to 2 episodes a week. And then when I'm finally honed in on, okay, this is the direction of the podcast, it's an inspirational podcast, but it's also entertaining at the same time because we're sharing the crazy stories. That's when I knew I had something that's so different, because there's nothing like this. And people interview people that went to prison all the time. What people don't do is have the host be the person that went to prison.
Right.
So when you mix that...
You knew what the lifestyle was like. You knew what questions, they brought reality to what you were. You weren't just some generic guy asking questions off a card. You lived the life.
People feel comfortable with me. I think that's the thing. I'm not trying to exploit them. I mean, you are and you aren't. Like, I'm not trying to exploit them in the sense where I'm not in their best interest.
Right.
I relate to these individuals. And the way I ask questions, the way I'm quirky, and just who I am, you mix that with the good production, the good lighting, the good sound, 2 episodes a week, working harder than anyone else in the competition. And you get people to be comfortable. And then you also I compare it to me, where I reached out to literary agents, movie producers, newspapers to share my story, and they all turned me no. They all said no. So then when you have all these individuals who are just your average person that want to come on a platform like mine, I tell them, yes, there's a power in that, where you could give them this opportunity, and now all these individuals want to come on because it's a safe place. They can get their story out to millions of people.
Right. So in the beginning, how did you obtain your guests? Where were you reaching out to get them at that point? Because in the beginning, you're starting up, right? You're trying to get people in to tell their story. How was the reaction on that, on your first couple of guests? Was it?
So what I did was I applied the same logic in the concert business. You apply it like normally you'd book the artist and then you fly them out. So instead of the artist, I'm booking other influencers that went to prison, and I used them to build my platform.
Right.
So I would invite them, I'd fly them out, get them a hotel, get them a flight, have them come out. I'd pick them up. If I go from Hyde Park to LaGuardia and back, drive for 6 hours, fly them in and out same day to save on costs, and then shoot the podcast. And the idea is you give them clips and stuff, they'll market it for you. Like
Right.
that's why guests are so important because they're going to market.
What was the reaction on your first couple of people when you're reaching out to these? Did they think you were crazy? Were they really, said, oh, yeah, this is a good idea. I think I want to do this. Or were they like, go fuck yourself?
No, I think a lot of people had this idea, but no one knew how to execute it. Me, when I have an idea in mind, it's done the next day. Like I was like, I want to redo the lighting in here. Like I don't wait on stuff. You don't wait.
No, I know that.
When it's done, it's like we built this studio in a couple days.
You're texting the day before. Your appointment's at 9. I'll be there at this. Yeah, like you're good like that.
I don't fuck around when it comes to that. And there's so many people that have these ideas that they do this, and it just gets. They put on the back burner. It gets lost in the sauce. Yeah, me, when I have something, bam, like you approve that logo, bam, logo boxes are ordered the next day. This studio, bam, all right, I want new lighting, go on Amazon, bam, order it, get it installed. I don't like to wait for anything. If someone can't do it for me on that day, I'm finding someone else. And it's nothing against them or anything, it's just, that's the way I operate.
Listen, you got to strike while the iron's hot, you know what I mean? But, so you're doing all behind the scenes again, okay? Everybody has the disillusion of you standing at the top room, looking down, pointing around, saying, you're the jack of all trades. And so tell us where you're at today. You started with this idea. You're here now, obviously, big followings, still working hard. Where you at and where are you going?
I mean, I think I'm working harder now than ever because I've evolved so much. Like now I've taught myself how to edit. Like this, what we're doing now wouldn't have been possible even just 2 months ago because I was so pigeonholed by having to outsource. I didn't know how to do any of this.
You were relying on other people to do it.
But not only that, I'd have to pay for it. Now I'm able to give back in my time, which is great, and it doesn't cost anyone anything. It's just time and effort. And when the same way you take on someone with a boxing, you're not investing money, you're investing your time.
Right.
And so...
Yeah, we put our sweat equity into it.
Exactly. So learning how to do all of this, there's a power in that. I can do the filming, I can do the setup, I can do the camera, and I get better each time. I take feedback well. I fucked up a few filmings. Now I get better. You learn. And I got it down to a science now. So I'm not depending on anyone. I'm depending on me. And does that put a lot of work on me? Yes, but I like doing this. I don't ever feel dreaded like, oh, I have to go set this up. Like, I like doing this. This isn't that hard when you put it together and it's creative and it's building, Yeah,
I know. It's the same. Like, I know you spend a lot of time here, similar to us in the gym. We got to like what we're doing. If you don't like what you're doing, like, this is fun. Like being in the gym, I tell people, we talk with the coaches, it's fun. This is my happy place. Don't mess up in my happy place. And I know, look, you're here a lot. And obviously, you're very, very passionate, very detail-oriented with it. So where do you see yourself going with Locked In?
I just want to continue to grow. I think Locked In is going to, we're going to 3 episodes a week in February, which is going to put us on that level, like where Rogan is, not saying his same following, of course, but like production-wise. He's bumping out 3 to 4 episodes a week.
Right.
I think that's going to really elevate us because no one's doing high-quality 3 episodes a week like that. There's so many people to interview. There's so many stories. So that's going to progress. I'm working on a book. I think that's definitely a goal for this year. And I want to really now take on the role that I've been given, like getting involved with the community. Like me and AJ were talking about stuff for next Christmas and stuff like that. Like I want to use my platform to do good. And I want to give back. Like I have that kid Caillou doing a podcast. Right. He's coming in. He's doing it, his own podcast. I want to take on more stuff like that because as a kid, I think that's the coolest thing in the world, like have this. Not a lot of kids have that. So for someone like him who's bullied in school and stuff, that becomes his superpower. And I want to give, I was thinking the other night, how you guys do the programs at Champs for the stuff. Imagine having a program that's like you get the kids that are the Misfits and the Outsiders, give them a podcast or a video someplace where they could feel like they're the superpower right there. That too,
but you also bring reality into it, okay? You bring into the sense okay, I made mistakes. This is what happened. I came, and now I'm moving in another direction.
Yeah.
So, whether it's bullying, getting knocked down, what are we going to do with it? How can we spin it positively? Personally, I think you would be a very good role model in this community, not only for the kids, but, definitely for people for reentry. because, yeah, it's hard. Society, it's hard right now, but you proved it a little bit wrong right there. Working at Whole Foods, here, building all this stuff. Nobody handed you a blank check, and said, Ian, go set up your podcast, do what you got to do.
Yeah.
You're putting all your sweat equity in, everything, your time, whatever money, whatever else you have, your ideas. Do you see yourself not only 3 to 4 podcasts a week, but something that is a mainstream podcast daily, or show or movie, or something in that realm in the future for yourself?
I mean, I definitely see my story, my personal story, as a movie or TV show, and that'll come in time. Look at The Trashers, took 10 years, 12 years to put together, And before, I was so much in a rush for that, and it wasn't happening. So now it doesn't matter to me because I'm not dependent on that. So I also think now, because I have that crazy story, it has a happy ending to it, where you see a lot of these like scam people or people that went to prison. There's no happy ending on Netflix or something because they put the craziness, and it's not, all right, this person just got out of jail. There's no success story. I think when that does come for me, it's going to have a really crazy success story. Like, I'd love if the ending is I built this new business, everyone got paid back, and everything's great, But whether it happens or not, it'll happen eventually. I'm not in a rush. Right. But in regards to the podcast, I think eventually it is going to become mainstream because you can't ignore these stories forever. People are interested in these stories. People can relate to these people. It's not the same celebrity. You don't know how many celebrities that start podcasts, it's the same shit. How was your weekend? Partying, the most unrelatable stuff. The people that come onto my show, you can relate to that. The average person can relate to these people. And I think that's why Joe Rogan's so successful, because he brings on your average people and he has interesting conversations. So I think that's a big part to it too. And I think getting to the point where I could just do my podcast full time. Like, am I in love with the studio business? No. Do I like doing it? Yes. But I think long term, I love where like it could just be me, my podcast, nothing else.
Revolved around you.
Yeah.
Where you're not, you're just building off of that to get to that point right now.
And maybe I hire someone to do the studio part, But right now I'm in the position where like I'm starting to generate some revenue. How could I turn that away when you're in a hole? So I'm trying to climb out of this hole and take on as much as I can, put in the work so I could say to myself, I didn't leave any stone unturned. And I'm living a pretty, like, I don't go out to the club. I don't do that.
No, you're pretty boring fucking dude.
Like, I like to keep to myself. I like to be safe, and I like to just do that and be a normal person, like, and just like, I just want to be your normal guy, That's all I want. I don't want people to do I don't want people to think of me differently,
Yeah, but I think that's where everybody gets a misconception of people who you don't know in somebody, but there's nothing wrong with doing you. No. There's nothing wrong with that. So we're going to kind of wrap it up here and ask you a couple questions. Foxhole. If you were in a foxhole, who would you be in a foxhole with?
What's a foxhole? Like an actual fox's hole?
Foxhole, no.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like in war, bro. Like in war.
Okay.
Foxhole.
I'm bringing Amesbury with me.
Bringing Amesbury with you?
Dude, after I saw that, and I'm not saying this just because he's outside, but after I saw him go into the ring that night, Thanksgiving Eve, after having a baby, and in the fucking Chuck Taylors, and no training for a few weeks, and he fucking went, and that was a dog fight. He's coming with me all the way.
Yeah.
You don't have anyone else.
He didn't blink, right?
Yeah, he didn't blink. He just went in there. He's just a tough dude. That's it.
Nah, he's just built from a different mold.
They don't make him like that.
He's built from a different mold.
Yeah.
All right. You get 3 dinner guests. Who would they be?
Ooh, I think I'd love to have like Liam Neeson. What's his Denzel Washington would be a great one.
Okay.
And Robert Downey Jr. too, because he went to prison. I feel like that would be like a cool
couple
conversation.
Of times.
Yeah. And that's not really talked about too much in the media. So
yeah, because he hasn't fell, but watch him fall and they'll bring his whole lifestyle back up.
Absolutely.
But I want to thank you, Ian Bick, Locked In Podcast. I wish you great success, and thank you for being here on Coach's Corner.
Yeah, great conversation. Shout out to Nirvana Superwater, man.
Shout out to Nirvana.
We
Champs
live off
Boxing.
this stuff. This is great.
Yep. And we'll see you on the next one.